and welcome back to the first Sports Rundown Betalong of the 21-22 season. Feels a bit like can't believe that we're in the 21-22 season, but here we are. How are you, Gary? It's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, good. I'll be good. Looking forward to it. It feels like ages, obviously we took a break during the Euros from the streaming and concentrated on the website, which I think is looking great. So it was good to do that, not to give ourselves a pat on the back. Looking to get back.
With the self-compliments very early.
I know, yeah, straight in there. But sure, if you're not going to compliment yourself, who's going to do it? But yeah, looking forward to getting back into it. We'll be doing it every week now going forward. Kind of buzzing for that.
Yeah, and anyone who is just watching the show for the first time, it's the SportsRunDown.com Betalong. So we've actually a new logo there. You can see it on the screen. It's Gary's piece of work there. So I actually quite like it. You can see SportsRunDown.com. That's our website. So we have all sorts of betting advice and tips and general gambling content up there. And then every Friday we'll do a bet along. So we'll look at the live matches and we'll have a few bets on those and share our thoughts. And then we'll also do a preview of the upcoming European football, American football, racing, whatever we're doing on that weekend, we'll be having a look at it. So maybe before we dive into too much detail on tonight, I'm just going to run through quickly the ACCA that I have. So if you actually look at SportsRundown.com, every week we've got what we call the All Action ACCA, which is it's three mostly goals bets, but it's mainly smaller leagues. So it's not SerieA, it's not the La Ligue, it's not the leagues that we cover in great detail on the site. And tonight we've got a 10-1 or by slightly below 10-1 treble. So the main one on there tonight is the Serie B. So it's a Benevento against Lecce. Benevento were actually quite the disappointment for us in the week before the international break. They badly let us down. They're playing Lecce. They're 6-5 to win that game. I just don't see how they don't win it. They're down from the SerieA. They've got a very strong squad. Stable team. They're not really going to go anywhere. Benevento won 4-3 in the opening day. And then they lost 1-0 to Parma, who are still odds-on favourites to win the Serie B this year. They lost 1-0 after a 96-minute Parma goal. And we actually had goals back in that game. There was 30 shots. Benevento were probably the better team on the night, but was very unlucky up front. So I think that's 6-5 for the Benevento win. That's at 7:30. That's actually just kicked off. I think that's the right call there. I think it's a very good price. The next game, which kicked off in 10 minutes, is the Club Brugge against Ostend. Bruges are obviously the heavyweights in the Belgian FDA, but I think this season they're not so good at the back. Casauno, or I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name, they sold him to the Bundesliga. It was good business, but the gap he's left behind is just so obvious. Their defense is kind of all over the place. Other than the two bottom teams in the league, they actually have the worst goals against of anybody. So that they're scoring for fun, but they've conceded about 2 goals a game so far, 11-6 or something like that. So it's over 2.5 on both teams to score. I think over 2.5 is 2-5, but it is 11-10 if you put in both teams to score as well. So I think Ostend has scored in nearly every game. Maybe they're actually quite decent up front. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset there, but I'll take the over 2.5 on both teams to score. And then the last one is the League of Ireland game. It's actually their own hometown team, Waterford. They're up in Dublin against Rovers tonight. I've gone with both teams to score. That's another one where I wouldn't be hugely surprised if there was an upset. Waterford were absolutely wretched for most of the season. They looked a sure thing for relegation. They've changed the manager, and it's worked a charm. I think they maybe lost 1 game since Bertram's come in. They look very good. I think they've scored in every game that he's been since he's joined, maybe 10 games or 9 games anyway. Rovers, I mean, obviously one of the best teams in the country, but they're just a real bad run at the minute. Confidence could be shot. Obviously out of the cup, out of the Europa Conference League, and then they lost their last 2 games with second last minute or last minute goals. So it's really kind of just not going for them at the minute. Whatever, they're 9-1, which I think is a crazy price. But I'm going to take both teams to score 5-4. Maybe the Waterford started well, got a goal, and then maybe Rovers came back into it and realised their quality came back to the fore. So 3 of those together, I think it's 19-2 or there and thereabouts. So that's my bet for the night.
Yeah, I'm on that one as well. Now I had to go with a slight variation of it because the bookmaker I'm using doesn't offer the over 2.5 and both teams. So I just had to go with the over 2.5. So I think it was 7-1 I got. With just it brought down to That just over 2.5, because the over 2.5 I think might have been around like 8 to 11 or something along those lines. So it wasn't quite as juicy as yours, but like you made a really good case for them. I thought reading through. Obviously, I'm familiar with the League of Ireland, but I wouldn't be that familiar with Belgium. And yeah, you made a really good case for it. And the fact that last season the two games finished that way around, over 2.5 on both teams scoring, it's a good indication for this game. So fingers crossed we can get our bet along off to a flying start like tonight.
If that one doesn't come in, I'll actually have to just take a cold hard look in the mirror and reassess how I actually look at these games, because I'd just be very surprised if Ostend don't score here. And Serie B one, I mean, we've had it before on the stream. It's very patchy. Sometimes you can have a great run there, and then other times results just come out of the blue that you really can't see. But I don't see how Benevento don't win here. They didn't have too many players, in fact, away on international duty. So they've had 2 weeks to get themselves together. I think, they'll have a point to prove after that game against Parma. And yeah, Lecce are just not quite the same quality as they have. So that's what here. Just before we move on, we have a League One specialist in the team, so he's actually new to the site. Dermot is his name. He League One content every week, and he actually got a 15-2 treble up last week. So he usually shares 3 or 4 bets each game week. One of his games is tonight, so it's Lille in the League One. So we just said we'd get it out there because obviously it's Friday night game, so we don't want to after time or anything like that. But as well, we're checking out SportsRunDown.com and going to the League One section. He's got very unlucky earlier in the season, I think.
Yeah.
A great call, but just a bit shafting the way it panned out. But yeah,
he needed that break last week because, as you said, he got really unlucky at the start of the season, and that was kind of typified by the Nice-Marseille game, where I think he tipped up Nice to win. They were winning 1-0 in the 75th minute, and then the match got abandoned because of Dimitri Payet fighting with a fan or whatever. So that just summed up his luck in the early weeks, but you could tell just by reading the analysis and the way the games panned out that he knows what he's talking about. And I really like the Mohamed Bayo. I think it's Mohamed Bayo, or definitely Bayo is the surname, because I wouldn't be too familiar with the kind of the French league. I know obviously PSG, maybe Lyon and Monaco, but outside of that, I'd struggle with some of the players. So when he put that up, I was kind of looking at it, looking at the game with interest. And Bayo should have had 3 or 4 goals, and then in the last minute, he had a chance to score as well. So yeah, he's ticking along nicely, and obviously the 7-2 that got up last week, that was great. Puts the league on betting in the profit for the season, and hopefully you can follow up this week.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about before with sort of other tipsters, and anyone who's been around Sports Rundown for a while will know that we've tried to shy away from the concept of being a tipster. But that's why we put the analysis up there, because you can read it, and if you just throw out a tip, Bayo to score, and he doesn't, and then you just look at it, you think, he didn't score, that was no good. But if you actually read the analysis and then you see the game, you're like, he read it perfectly well. He was just very unlucky on the day. So yeah, like you said, he's back in profit now, so very good there. The bet is both teams to score, by the way, in that Lille game tonight. It kicks off at, I think, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. I'm just watching it here now. To get to after time and out of the way, or before it becomes after one, I actually did put that in the bet for us as well, Liam. So obviously we have yours going on, and that's going to be the main bet that we track through the night. But I've done the both teams to score just to include Dermo's bet. I backed Birmingham. They're playing Derby tonight. I think they'll win. Both teams to score in Sligo Rovers versus St. Pat's in Ireland, and then my team Shelbourne to win away to Cork. So yeah, I said that's just an interest for the evening, but the main focus will be on your bet.
Yeah, sounds good. Good. So maybe before we move on to anything that's on tonight, and we still have 10 minutes to go before that Lille game kicks off, maybe we could have something of a recap of the international games that were on the international break the last week or so. Overall, probably a disappointing international break, but what are your thoughts on it, Gary?
Well, disappointing from an Irish perspective, obviously, in terms of results, because nobody wants their team to be losing or drawn to the likes of Azerbaijan, etc. But I think there are a lot of positives that Ireland can take from it as well. I'll probably get into those in a minute. Then from an English perspective, I think there's a few flaws starting to creep through. So I don't know what you want to talk about. I know you probably have thoughts on them. Do you want to get into Ireland first and then we'll talk about England, or what way do you want to do it?
Yeah, well, I think maybe Ireland first. I'm curious. I mean, if you would pause the stop the world spinning with whatever 85 minutes on the clock against Portugal, it's probably the most optimistic I would have been about Irish football in many years. But then obviously very unlucky at the end of that match. And I actually think, everyone thinks the ref is against them. I think there was some very bad calls in that game. And the fact that Ireland lost, okay, you never want to lose, but even still, it was a great performance. Very, very positive. It was the two games afterwards that I found quite just sort of disheartening. I don't think, it's one thing to play really well. It's a new type of football they're trying to play and it doesn't quite click and we don't score. But I don't think Serbia, a very middle of the road team, and they had us at arm's length the entire game. I just think even the goal we got wasn't great. They would be that was 2 points dropped for them. And I'm curious what the positives you saw, especially in those second two games, were.
Well, I suppose start with the Portugal game. I thought we set up well, tried to catch them on the counter-attack. And it wasn't a counter-attack where it was just an aimless hoof. It was actually combinations trying to play the likes of Ida and Conley in down the flanks, which I haven't really seen from an Ireland team before. Normally it would have been somebody like John Walters or David McGoldrick standing up front. And obviously not to slate those two lads because they've obviously done a lot for the country over the last kind of 10 years, but it would be a hoof up to them trying to break it down, and then the midfield joining in. I just thought the way we kind of played out from the back, it wasn't a hoof, it was an actual pass down the flanks. We had a bit of pace in the team. Fair enough, we've no end product. I think that's our Achilles heel at the moment, is that no matter what way we play, I think we put 10 men behind the ball and play hoofball if we wanted, and we're still not going to get the results because we just don't have a natural finisher in the team. Conley's there at Brighton, and he's not prolific. He's playing well and he's performing well week in, week out, but he's not prolific. And then Ida, when he gets a look in for Norwich, okay, he scored a good few in the Championship, but he's not going to get 20 a season for Norwich. It doesn't look like. Now, he might grow into that player. He looks like a bit of a beast in terms of holding the ball up and his strength and things like that. But as I said, he's not a player like a Robbie Keane who's going to be fox in the box, get you loads of goals, that way. So in the Portugal game, I suppose that was what encouraged me. And even when we were 1-0 up, I think there's a clip of around the 88th minute or something like that where the ball goes up to Ida and he's at about the 18-yard box. And he knowingly kind of turns back, plays a simple ball back into midfield. We keep possession of the ball, and we keep possession of the ball for about a minute, which, obviously we lost the game. So you could say, right, you should just went to the corner flag or whatever. But the fact that we're trying to play that possession-based football and, be able to kill games when we're ahead, I thought that was a positive against a really good side. And then in the other two games, I said, we're toothless in attack, so that's the negative. But you look at Obama Deli, who came in, and his performance being turfed on against Portugal, and then his performance in the last match against Serbia was unbelievable. It was the 89th minute again against Serbia. He got the ball in the centre half position, took a little bit of a heavy touch, managed to get on it, beat two players in midfield, and pass the ball forward. Again, back 3-4 years ago, that would have been a hoof up the pitch. That's just a 50-50 ball. So I suppose the way I'm looking at it now is that, I wrote off the World Cup campaign altogether at the start. And where I judge Kenny and this Ireland team is in the next qualification campaign. So if we still can't beat Gibraltar's and Azerbaijan and countries like that, Luxembourg's, then maybe it's time for a change. But I think that the structures that are being put in place with that youth, by the time that comes around, a load of lads are going to have 15, 20 caps. They might break into their club sides, but the fact that they're performing for a national side, And if we get someone to come along that'll put the ball in the net, I think we could be a different team. So I can see us competing with the big teams more in 2 years' time than we've ever done before. But at the moment, you just have to take the struggles of we might.
I don't know if I go ever there now, considering we went to a World
Well,
Cup.
not ever, but from I'm talking about from a footballing perspective. You know, like obviously we've had good teams in the past, but from a footballing perspective, I think we're going to be able to play the game right. We're going to be able to kill games when we're ahead. It's not going to become the panic of 1-0 up after 20 minutes, let's say, and everybody goes and sits behind the ball, and then it's just 70 minutes of absolute stress.
We did. Like I thought at the 15 minutes to go against Portugal, we just got deeper and deeper. There was a couple of moments when they played well, and you mentioned that one where we held the ball on for a minute and a bit, but you could just see us drifting back. And okay, granted, it was disappointing to see, and it obviously backfired because they scored twice. But it happened maybe 90% later into the game than it usually does. But hopefully, they kind of learn a lesson from that, and we do avoid it because it's. I think with the quality of footballers that are out there at the minute, and how technical everybody is, and how used to breaking down, really deep defenses that these big teams get from playing club football at the minute, that you're never going to hold on like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We might be better in 2 years' time. I also did write off this qualification campaign. I don't think it was ever really going to work for us. I mean, I think it still could, but I really think it's very unlikely. So yeah, it's hard to know what to do. I think when you were talking about goal scorers, I think it's another thing about Ireland. We were blessed for so long with the likes of Rotten Keane, like goal scoring machines, that you could be pretty shit for 70 minutes and then score one or two and then get through a game. And it was, it was very different. Now we have to work a lot harder to score those goals. I mean, somebody would develop into you use the phrase fox in the box, but any type of player who just can score consistently. We don't have it. Like you said, they're not getting the time for their clubs. So I think until that happens, it's going to be a slog. I know where you stand on this, but Kenny in or Kenny out?
Oh no, I'm 100% Kenny in. But it's not a Kenny thing, like
Yeah,
like I was having a bit of back and forth on Twitter the other day with some random lad who was like, slagging me for saying Kenny in. But it's not. I'm not like a Kenny fanboy being like, oh, Stephen Kenny's great. It's not the League of Ireland background or any of that. I just think that like he's been in the under 21 job. He knows the youth that's out there. He knows their ability. Now he's bringing those through into the national team, the senior team. I think that can only be good. And whoever comes in needs to go through a similar process. Like, I wouldn't be happy with a Big Sam coming in, or I think the favourite last week was Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon coming in, and he was playing hoofball with Celtic. That way? When it's a two-team division, basically. He should you should be playing tippy-tap football in the Scottish Premier League when you're either Celtic or Rangers, because you've got the budget to do it. So I think if they come in, you could go, okay, we'll qualify for a tournament, but we're never really going to give the tournament a good go, in my view, anyway. The way football has gone, it's gone so technical, so hard.
Euros that we got to with Spain, Croatia, and Italy. I mean, that was the line in the sand. It was like, okay, this approach is never going to work again. We know it now. We have to move on. But I think I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if Kenny is going to necessarily change anything being in there, but I think if you get rid of him, I don't think there's any manager in the world that's going to get an awful lot more out of those players. And the plan is it's got to be 5-10 years down the line where we're going to start seeing dividends, because it's pointless at the minute. If you take, like you said, maybe we could play a bit of hoofball, force out a win against Azerbaijan, and scrape a draw against Luxembourg, and then maybe qualify for something, and we'll qualify and we'll just get annihilated when we get there. So I think we do need to.
But I just think we're starting to put together a team. Like, there's a core or a spine of a team that's coming there that is going to be decent. Like Josh Cullen, I thought was brilliant in the 3 games he played. It's not just because he's ex-West Ham, but like some of the balls he played, outside of his left and right foot out to the wingers, he got stuck in. I thought he was really good, and I think that Oma Babadeli and Bizunu kind of took all of the plaudits, but I thought Cullen was great in there. But if you look at it with like Bizunu and Kelleher, you're going to have 2 good goalkeepers fighting it out, I mean, I haven't seen that much of Keller, but he's obviously rated if he's like number 2 or number 3 at Liverpool. Kazuna was obviously showing his talents off. Then you've got O'Shea, Egan, and Obafemi centre halves. Malumbi and Cullen, you probably need one extra in there, maybe with a bit more presence, because the two of them are quite slight. And then you've got Ida up front. You're starting to build a team. Obviously, Doherty and Coleman right backs. We're covered there. I think it's left back, left midfield, someone up front to kind of dovetail with Ida. They're the spots that we need. And if we get someone in there, then like you could see a big turnaround in our results. I don't think we're that far away, not from being like, a really, really good team, but we're not that far away from getting to a stage where these games against Azerbaijan and Luxembourg are going to be, quite simple for us. And we'll be able to compete with the bigger teams. And then hopefully that'll lead into, instead of just competing with the bigger teams, we're actually going out and actually trying to beat them and expecting to beat some of them at a given point of time. So that's my thinking on it. I think we're both kind of aligned on it, probably, but I just don't like. You could bring Mancini in, and I don't think he's going to do anything. Like, we haven't got the players. We've had Trapattoni. He played defensive football, hoofball. We've had Mick McCarthy. He obviously had short-termism because he was only in the job for 2 years and he knew that. But it's time now to have a long-term vision and start bringing players through and trying to get some sort of identity for the national team, in my mind anyway. Anyway, we'll probably talk that to death. So what was your thoughts on England?
I don't know. Did you watch the games? I was watching the Poland game. It's probably the only noteworthy match of theirs from that campaign, from that little international break. My issue, I mean, they obviously have talent. You got to the final of the Euros. I kind of like them more than I did in the past, mostly because they're a more defensive team now, and I kind of prefer that type of football than just, for a 1-0 and a 4-3 type of win. I just don't know if Southgate is the guy for that job. Like, they're even in the final against Italy, the substitutions were not great. I said it multiple times throughout the Euros in my articles and in our kind of weekly or daily tips that, the squad rotation, the squad management was quite poor, that it was getting to a point where you got your 11, and if that doesn't work, where do you go? And you're going to bring in a guy who's played 15 minutes or 40 minutes throughout the tournament, and he's going to come on and expect to do something well. Obviously, the substitutions in the game weren't very effective. Italy are not a good team at chasing the game. England scored early. They had to the foot on the throat. Couldn't capitalize. And I think obviously that's a far more important game than this Poland game. But to me, what was disappointing was that he hasn't learned his lesson. They were 1-0 up, and then I don't think he made a single substitution in that game. Okay,
no, he didn't. And yeah, like I mean, he definitely should have, because I think England could have put the game to bed fairly simply if he had have made a couple of subs kind of around the 65th, 70th minute mark. I think that Mount and Grealish were playing great together, but they were playing kind of as individuals in a pair. Like, they were looking to pass the ball to each other more often than they were looking to actually play, like, incisive pass or whatever. And I think that somebody like maybe Saka or something that more direct on the left-hand side could have caused problems. Like, Glick was out on his feet after half an hour. So I would have been having, if I was the manager, I would have been having a left footer just running at him to the byline, getting balls into the box, and having, Kane go in on it, and Grealish waiting for anything that comes out and breaks the edge of the box, same with Mount. So yeah, I thought he probably should have made a couple of subs. I also don't think, like, I mean, as good as Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice are playing together, I think both of them are limiting their game by both of them being there. So I can understand in the Euros final against Italy why you might play the two of them. You're like, right, we want to stay in this game. But you can't just play that way all the time. Like, you're England, you want to win World Cups, you want to win European Championships. You've got probably the team of a generation. Go out against the likes of Poland and play like a team that's a team of a generation. be a bit ballsy, have Rice or Phillips in there, make the kind of key decision, and put an extra attacker in there to help, or in midfield that isn't quite as defensive, that's going to go a little bit more box to box. As I said, it's no slight on Rice or Phillips. I think the two of them have been brilliant. But I see Declan Rice every week at West Ham. And I see him with England, not that he's playing at 90% of his game because he's putting everything in, but you're only seeing 90% of what he can do because he's not really bursting forward as much. Whereas at West Ham, he'll get the ball and he'll drive. With England, he gets the ball and lays it off. I think that's limiting them, to be honest.
I think I agree with that. And I mean, I know we talked about it at the time. I thought not because of any quality limitation. I thought Rice was quite poor at the Euros because he's been told to play in a certain way, and the way the team is selected, he can't do a huge amount. But I think with Southgate, if he had played an experimental side against Poland and lost, nobody would care. In fact, I think England fans would be probably quite happy with it. But to keep sort of chugging through the same players, same type of game, and like you said, they don't know how to change it up then when when they're 1-0 up against Italy and you can put that game to bed, or when you're chasing the game, not that they've had to do a whole lot of that at any time recently. He's not using it as any kind of, he's not learning anything about the team.
That's it. You've no plan B or plan C because you've just got
grinding out results. Yeah. And great, you'll probably, they're going to qualify for every tournament ever the way things are at the minute, and fair play to them. But when they get there, I think he holds them back, to be quite honest about it. So, I mean, I had Italy back to win the Euros, so I'm kind of glad they lost, and I'm happy the way it panned out. But I mean, I think at some point you have to start asking questions about them because, like you said, the quality of players there. I mean, is it as good as France was 4 years ago, or things like that? It's very hard to compare that, but it's up there with the most talented squads in Europe. I mean, there's basically, I'm not a huge Pickford fan, but other than that, they've got world-class players in every single position. They obviously got to the Euros and they played a very strong, consistent style of football to get there. But I think when you get to the World Cup next year and you're going to have, Italy are now used to winning, Argentina have got back used to winning. We've always got the usual contenders out there, Germany, Brazil, etc. Will they have the ability to do it? I think he's going to hold them back again, unless he just changes things up. But I just don't see I don't see him starting doing that now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm just using Rice and Phillips as an example because it's the easiest to put into context. The fact that I said I'm going to see Declan Rice every week, so I can stand over the comparison of how I see him play for England versus how I see him play for West Ham. And for West Ham, he's the standout player on the pitch no matter who they're playing. But for England, he's a very good player, but it's not at that level. And again, it's not because of his ability. It's because I think the formation is holding him back. And that's kind of going into what you were saying there in terms of, if you have a plan A, which is your two holding midfielders, and that's the way you're going to play against the big teams, have a plan B where you're going to go, a little bit more attacking against the smaller teams. And then if it's not working against the bigger teams, when you go to the plan B and bring on your attackers, they know what to do and not kind of fish out of water when they come on. So, but I think overall for England, I can't remember in my lifetime, and maybe I probably was too young just at 96, but since then I think it's the best England team, the most vibrant England team. It's the team where you look at it and you go, these players are being hyped up. Are they overrated? And you're going, probably not. Whereas, back Sven-Goran Eriksson days, every player in the squad, your Jermaine Defoe's and things like that being called world class, whereas now Harry Kane's, you can't argue and be world class. So I think, it's positive from an England perspective, aside from Southgate's mishaps.
Yeah, and just on that, have you seen the update in France? Or are you too engrossed in the?
I have seen that Lorient have gone 1-0 up. Yeah, I saw it on Betfair on the cash out, but I'm just watching it here. It's a decent goal. Actually, Lorient came out and played they've been a better team in the first 6 minutes. I kind of had an eye on it here. That's great for Dermot.
That's what you want, yeah, the kind of underdog to score early. Now we have 80 odd minutes for Lille to get back into it. So
exactly, and he called that again, for anybody who's just joined the stream. So we have our website, SportsRundown.com. we cover multiple leagues throughout Europe. One of them is Ligue 1 in France. So the tip tonight was both teams to score in the Lorient versus Lille game. So Lille being kind of reigning champions, I think the top of the league at the moment again. You'd expect them to run away with this game. But they're more are kind of expert on League 1 football. Could have called out that defensively Lille have been quite poor and they've struggled early on in games. So like it couldn't have worked out any better for the bet. As you said, Liam, we've 80 minutes now to cheer on Lille to get one back.
Yeah. Speaking of, go ahead.
I was going to say goals. Club Brugge are up in the Belgian game. So
yeah, very nice there. Hopefully now they get a bit complacent and let one in. Obviously, you'd prefer Austin to have scored early, but we'll take the first goal anyway. We still need 2 more. But speaking of Dermot and the SportsRunDown.com website, so again, anyone who's just joined us, we mentioned there's plenty of dedicated league coverage on there. So the ACCA that we called out at the top of the show is mine, and it's more kind of lower leagues and it's maybe less watched leagues. But then we've got Dermot looks at League 1, and we also have a SerieA specialist, Enzo. So I should just run through those now. I think might be a good time to get some of those out there. Did you look at this one, Gary?
I did, yeah.
I like it as well. I think the first one up obviously is Napoli-Juve, which is a match I personally can't wait to watch. I'd agree with the call out. We've got Napoli favourites at 7-5, or Enzo's got Napoli favourites at 7-5. I think that Juventus they're not at the races yet this season, and I just think that it's a much bigger game now for Napoli. That they're looking well. It's a real chance for them to win the league. You know, they're probably going to be. Personally, if I was a Napoli fan, I'd be devastated that Inter won it last year, having Napoli breaking records year after year, goal scoring records, and just couldn't pip Juve for whatever it was, 5, 6, 7 seasons. They were always just about, and then as soon as they dropped off, Juventus kind of went to the dogs and Inter snuck in there and won it. So I think they'll have a point to prove this season, and I think a big win is in store for them against Juve.
Yeah, I said I like that call as well. Juve obviously haven't got off the best of starts, and Napoli are a decent team. Obviously, from being there a couple of years ago, we know how hostile an environment it can be for opposition teams going. So, yeah, I like that. But the one that stood out for me was Lazio. I think that a lot of people will look at that game, see AC Milan at home, and be like, "Oh, it's a home win." But like obviously Enzo makes a great point in the article. But I've also been following Felipe Anderson, so I follow him on Instagram, obviously from his West Ham days. And like I know Instagram probably doesn't tell a true story, but the camaraderie within the group, like from the pictures he's putting up, just seems to be really, really good. They just seem to have a good team spirit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them win something this year. Maybe not Serie A, but win a cup or something like that, because they just seem to be kind of brimming with confidence. They all have seem to be friends. You've got Immobile scoring goals. You've got Anderson back in there. He seems to have hit the ground running after going back. So I like that Lazio call. That's quite juicy at 9-4. Like,
yeah, it's a very good price, and he makes that. Yeah, you mentioned the point that he makes about in those kind of coin toss games, you take the bigger odds as probably a better long-term strategy. But yeah, I'd agree with him. I think it's a good call. I think I for one was probably one of the people who expected Lazio to drop off after their great season. They haven't really done that. It's all stuck together, and obviously with the Sarri in there now, it's kind of worked very well. So quite happy to back Lazio there as well on that one. I do think Milan are quite solid though. I mean, I watched both of their games and they're very, very sturdy. So I don't know if anyone's going to stop Lazio scoring, it probably will be Milan. But if they do score and Milan are forced to come out and play, I think it could be a great bet. And also was a bet in the Roma Sassuolo game, so by all means head over to SportsRunDown.com and check that one out. How are the matches looking, Gary? I'm actually not watching the Lille one myself tonight.
Like Lille aren't really in this game whatsoever from what I've seen. Like Lorient have just been on top. Now I haven't watched just 12 minutes gone. Obviously, I've been talking to you, so I haven't really been focusing too much on the game. But every time I look down, Lorient are on the attack, and they definitely had the best of the open exchanges. So we could probably do a little getting a little bit more back into it. But yeah, they're doing all right. And then I said the Club Brugge game being 1-0 up, you could probably do a goal in Waterford at some point, just to kind of, just get one on the board there. Obviously, a Waterford goal would be ideal, but I think that's the one that's kind of holding the bet back a small bit at the moment, even though there's plenty of time left.
Well, speaking of holding the bet back, I'm keeping an eye on Benevento here, and they're dominating the game. They're dominating the possession, and all the chances are going against them. They're just losing the ball, and then they could easily get caught on the counter if the game continues the way it's going at the minute. I have to check the stats, but it's at least five or six shots to just the one for Benevento. So not feeling confident here, but I was expecting after the international break has not materialised, but obviously plenty of time from there and their own team.
Oh, Lorient nearly scored again. Jeez, I said they're absolutely dominating this game. So it's actually hard to see Lille coming back into it, given how they seem very shaky at the back. Jose Fonta's having an absolute nightmare. So he must be 40 now. He's definitely he was at West Ham a couple of seasons ago, and he was into his mid to late 30s. So he's definitely not under 38. And to be playing at like a top level at that age, you have to be looking after yourself,
Lorient are still just inside even money. They're 10-11 there. So the way you're describing that match seems like a good price.
Yeah, like I wouldn't recommend a bet, because obviously, Lille are reigning champions and they can turn it on. They've obviously got good players or whatever, but they wouldn't want to continue like this for too long, or else they'll find themselves 2 or 3 down and won't be able to come back. That way.
That's the one worry with the both teams to score bets. Obviously, it's in an open game, it's maybe better than the 2.5. But if a team just kind of throws the towel in and they go 2-0 up or 2-0 down, you just think they might not bother coming back into this one. But, an away team, some of those French teams can be very temperamental, so hopefully they don't end up 2 or 3-0 down.
Just to round up the SerieA, it's in my mind. I think the brave call, and he's actually made 3 really brave calls, like this weekend, Enzo. I agree with 2 of them, but I think the Roma over 3.5 goals. Like, I don't know whether it's just I don't know. I haven't got the bottle or whatever, but I just always find 3.5 goals. It's just such a reach, and I can't think of a time when I've ever got an over 3.5 up. Now I know in SerieA there can be plenty of goals, but it's just I found that to be a very, very brave call by Enzo.
He's a fan of the over 3.5s. I'm not. I'm the same as you. I think that 4 goals is just a lot to ask in a match. I do agree with you. Like the last couple of seasons, SerieA has been a goal-orama kind of league, so it's. I mean, I wouldn't be backing it anywhere else, that's for sure. But like I looked at it, and it's the same odds, or very close to the same odds, for over 2.5 on both teams to score with Bet365. I feel like you're looking at Roma to win 4-0, unlikely. To lose 4-0, also unlikely. So I think I take the other one. It gives you the 2-1 kind of 2-1 escape. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that market. I won't back that with myself because I never do back over 3.5. Like you said, I don't think I've ever actually got it in a match. I don't think I've ever backed it, but if I have, I certainly don't think I've won with it. So
yeah, like because I'm not a fan of cash out. Like I don't really like cashing out. But obviously when you're sitting there and it's on your phone, you see the cash out. It's always nice to see it ticking up the green values. So that's why I like when our back draws, because when there's nothing happening in the games, every minute that it ticks towards 90, you're kind of getting closer to your draw, and the odds for a draw are dropping. But it just seems for over 3.5 that after 10 minutes, if there's no goal, it just drops like completely. You're at 0, and it's always soul destroying when you look down and you see like a penny cash out or whatever, So yeah, maybe that comes into my thinking, but fingers crossed it comes in for Enzo anyway.
Suspended because it's so far out of the money that you're just there's not even a cash out.
Exactly, yeah, they're just like no chance.
The way I look at those is kind of what will it take for the bet to come in. So you back a team to win and they're 1-0 down. it's still pretty likely that they could get 2 late goals like Portugal did against us, and it's feasible. When you're looking at something like, I need 3 goals here or even 4 goals, I'm just like, oh, forget it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, just we should have said, kind of for the people watching in, the viewers watching in, if you agree, disagree with anything we've said, obviously we've covered the internationals, Ireland and England, kind of covered off Serie A there as well. But if you're agreeing with anything we say, if you have any thoughts, any questions on what we're going through, throw a comment into the comments on YouTube or Facebook. We're monitoring those, and as we see them, we'll give you a shout out, and we can answer the questions or take your feedback on board. Probably the big piece of feedback we'll be looking for is the old logo versus the new logo. So the old logo is still on our stream there with the triangle. The new logo is obviously our new lucky charm and the circular logo. So if you are watching in, let us know which one you prefer, because we're always looking for positive and negative feedback.
Yeah, and you made a good point about just throwing your thoughts into the comments. I mean, obviously you can see us here talking about betting and sports. We do love chatting about it. So if you have any bets of your own, just drop them in there. We chat away to you about those. We love talking about this stuff. So by all means get in touch. It is gone half time in the Serie B, by the way, 0-0. Probably relieved that it's half time, if I'm fully honest. The Benevento got there because they were just looking very susceptible at the back. So yeah, made it to there at half time. Still 0-0 in the Waterford game. I'm not too worried about that one. I mean, a lot of the Waterford matches recently have had a lot of late goals, so I'm okay with that one. And then we're at halftime. I think while it's halftime in that game, and it's kind of drifting towards it in the French match, Gary, maybe you want to give us a run through your bets for the weekend. So for anyone who's not used, not a regular reader of SportsRunDown.com, Gary's our EFL expert, so he shares a English Football League ACCA or selection of bets each and every week. So it's a good article up again this weekend. I'm going to back all these again, so I'm quite a fan of this series. And you got a 14-1 ACCA up the week before, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so it was advised at 13, and I think it actually drifted to 15. So obviously we published these kind of Thursday, Friday, but before 3 o'clock on the Saturday, it drifted out to 15-1. So some people got 13, some people got 15, but a winner is a winner. And in our P&L, we're nearly 6 points up for the season, which is, we're 5 weeks in. So we haven't had that much time to get into a rhythm and see how the leagues are taking shape and stuff. So I'm happy to be in profit for the season so far, and fingers crossed we can make more money this weekend. So yeah, the first game that I focused on was Blackburn versus Luton, and these two teams they're kind of closely matched, and they look well in terms of league position. So Blackburn are 10th and Luton are 12th. There's a point separating them. They've had very similar starts to the season, obviously. And I just thought that the bookies were kind of mispricing it. So, like Luton's last 2 games in particular, I thought have been fairly bad. They lost 5 or 6-0 at home to Birmingham 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks before the international break. And then they followed that up with a 0-0 draw again at home to Sheffield United. Obviously Sheffield United are relegated from the Premiership, but they're actually second last in the league at the minute. They've just started the campaign really, really bad. So even in that game against Sheffield United, the shots on target, shots on goal, possession stats weren't great for Luton. I just think they're kind of on a bit of a negative flow. Blackburn are normally decent at home. Again, one thing that worries me about the Blackburn bet is their possession stats. So like their average possession in their 5 games this season is around 39%, which for a Tony Mowbray team, like he normally likes to play decent football, is fairly bad. So I think he would have been drilling his players over the last couple of weeks while he's had so obviously some players have gone on international duty, but he's probably had the crux of the squad there to work with. And I'd say he'd be drilling them. I expect Blackburn to come out all guns blazing. I think they'll win it quite comfortable. I thought they'd be around 4-6 to win. They're 11-10, which I think is a decent price. Then QPR Reading. So I actually I'm a bit worried about this that I'm missing something, because like sometimes you look at it and you're like, how have the bookies made this absolute ricket? And then 4 o'clock on Saturday, you're just like, that's wasn't a ricket, that was my ricket. So I'm hoping this isn't the case. But all things being equal, like QPR have had a class start to the season. I mentioned in my preview of the season that I thought they'd be fairly decent this year and tipped them for a top 6 finish. They're third in the league at the moment. I said they played very well. I think they're actually unbeaten at the moment. They've had 2 draws. One was a London derby against Millwall on the opening day of the season, which you can allow, and that was a 2-2 draw. It was kind of a ding-ding battle. So they've got goals in the team, and I said that they should be kind of brimming with confidence. They're playing against a Reading team who just can't keep a clean sheet. Like they've conceded, I think it's 13 or 14 goals in their last 5 games. So they're ticking up on 3 a game that they're conceding. Only once this season they've conceded less than 2. So that was a game against Preston that they actually won 2-1. So I said, if you're conceding goals at that rate, you're not going to win games in a division like the Championship. Penalty for Lille. Sorry, I'll pop up on screen there. But yeah, you're not going to win games in the Championship if you're constantly giving away multiple goals per game, and they're playing against a QPR side with a mix of kind of youth and experience. So Charlie Austin there to bang in goals, and they've a lot of young lads who are decent going forward and exciting going forward as well. So QPR is my nap of the week at 11-8. Cheltenham is my next match that I looked at, and again, these 2 teams have started the season very the same. So this is more of a gut call, but I just think Charlton struggled earlier in the season to score goals. I would have expected them to have no problem scoring goals. Like last year, they were scoring for fun. I expect them to continue that into this year. They haven't done that, but in the last 2 games, they've started to find the net. So I think they could lay down a marker here and beat Cheltenham at home. And then the last is both teams to score of Swindon versus Port Vale. I actually think I should have mentioned it in the article that Swindon win and both teams to score is a great bet as well. That's probably priced up at about 3-1. So if you fancy adding a bit of spice to the bet, I'd recommend that. But both teams to score. Vale are a decent side. Swindon are third in the league. I think that fourth in the league. I think that Swindon will definitely score. And the way Port Vale have been playing recently, they should make a goal as well. So the 4 of those in accumulator is 19-1. I think it's a fairly solid bet, with probably Charlton being the risky leg, because that's the good call. But sometimes you just have to trust it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those gut calls. They're usually, we've had it on the stream in the past, certainly last season, a couple of pleasant but heated arguments about the stats don't back up certain bets, and then they often come good, especially in leagues when you move away from your Premier League, La Liga, SerieA, and you move into the slightly lower division teams. It's a different kind of, obviously different quality, obviously, but I think you do get those kind of quirks and stuff like that. So I think it's a great way to bet. So yeah, I'm going to back those for sure. I should have already got them backed. That penalty went in, by the way. I'm sure you saw it. So
yeah, I saw it there. Yeah.
Straight in for Dermot. That's a lovely bet to have up by half time. And
yeah, nice, like 25 minutes, or 25 minutes into the game and it's in. So
yeah.
Now whether it was a penalty is a different story. It was soft enough, but I'll take it for the bet.
Oh yeah, of course. And just quickly, while we're kind of moving on from that, we've already got the bet in. Gary,
just before you move on from the EFL, I just want to clarify something. The question that you asked, Liam, earlier, just in case it wasn't clear in the article, but it was just around the ticketing kind of item between Reading and QPR. So if anybody reads the article on Sports Rundown, you'll see a reference to a bit of spice being added, because Reading has basically refused QPR permission to show the game at Loftus Road. So there's a ticketing mix-up. Fans who normally travel away from home couldn't get to see the game. So to make up for QPR, wanted to give them hospitality in Loftus Road and basically stream the game back and show it live there to a couple of hundred people. They got the relevant permissions from the police and things like that. So the last call was with Reading, and Reading turned it down, which is a bit of a, it's a bad decision to make, I think.
Do you know what? We talked about this last night. When I was reading that article, and when you jump to a conclusion, it's very hard to back out of it. I assumed that they wanted to bring the fans into the stadium of the game, and then I thought, oh, maybe you didn't mean Loftus Road, but then so I kind of didn't click with me about the 3 p.m. kickoff. But if I was involved in Reading, I wouldn't allow it either, because once you open that door, the weather is bad. We want to keep fans at home and show them in the stadium. It's just no. I think I don't agree with that rule necessarily about the 3 p.m. blackout, but as it stands, I don't know why you'd be allowing other clubs to start showing it in their stadium.
I think QPR's logic was that a load of the home fans a load of the QPR fans are going to go and try and get home tickets. So you're kind of causing yourself maybe more trouble than it's worth, whereas you could look after them in Loftus Road. I think that was the logic that QPR were using, but I do see what you're saying, that it could become a cop-out for other clubs and eventually turn into just a money-making scheme for some clubs to kind of charge fans £100 for a dinner and watch the game, or whatever, a few points and watch the game.
It's actually not a bad idea. I'd probably go to a match, like a big away match, if you couldn't get tickets. Obviously you have to be a half-5 game or something like that. I think it's not a bad idea, but I just think, once you open that door, it starts to become more and more prevalent. So, but yeah, hopefully it adds a bit of spice, like you said, and then QPR get the win that you've predicted. Price for them as well, so I'm happy with
that. So just updates on the bets here. So obviously Dermot's bet is in the Lorient Lille. That actually looks like an unbelievable game. Like, I'm watching it here, end to end now. Lorient should have gone ahead there. The keepers had to make an absolutely world-class save from a volley. So if anybody wants to watch an exciting game, if you can get this on Betfair or some other stream, have a look. Obviously keep us open on one device and watch the match on the other. But it's a quality game. And then just in the Club Bruges game, so Oostende have had a man sent off just before halftime, which is a bit of a blow to the both teams to score there. So
I think it's the end of the bet. Bruges, like we said at the start, Bruges are the powerhouse of Belgian football. They have been shoddy at the back, but against 10 men, they're just going to get their tails will be up. I don't know. I have no stats to back this up, but I feel anytime there's a red card in a match that I've backed, whatever I've backed just loses. It's always just such a killer. But disappointing. But we'll see. There's still plenty of time there. Hopefully it comes good. Where else? Oh yeah. So before we got stuck on that, I was going to move on to just the last part on the website. So Gary's our EFL expert. We've got Dermot on League One, and we have Enzo on the SerieA, and we also have another new member of the team. We've got Savage, who does the Spanish football. So he's a La Liga expert, and he's got a La Liga it's a slightly different style of article to the other ones on the site. There's a review of the previous week, and then there is a preview of the big games coming up the weekend ahead. And then we had a few bets at the end of the article as well. So he doesn't always put the bets there himself, so don't have his name be tarnished by any losing selections there. But it's again actually quite confident with the picks this week in La Liga. They're very solid looking and pretty well priced. So maybe instead of running through them here, just hop over to SportsRunDown.com and have a read of his article. And by all means, just let us know if you like the style, or if you like normal style, or if you're going to back them, or whatever it is you're going to do in that.
I think the great thing about the article is, as you said, it's a different style, but also I don't know about the people watching in, but I'm a fan of a lot of different sports and a lot of different leagues, and La Liga has never really done it for me. Now I still like to keep up to date with it, so I like the way in there you're kind of getting what happened last week, little recap, and then look forward to this week. So you don't actually have to go and dig out videos from the game and watch them, or try and find other newspapers. You're just getting that quick synopsis of the games, which I find really, really helpful. So I'm enjoying following the progress of it anyway.
Yeah, it's a good series. I'm the same as you. I quite enjoy it. And I'm also the same as you. La Liga never caught my eye. Like, it just never like I said, I'm more into the defensive side of football anyway. So kind of 0-0, some 1-0s of the SerieA when we were young was more my kind of thing than the at least the kind of reputation for the thrillers in La Liga. I don't know if it was actually as goal heavy as people say or not, but yeah, it's a very good series. Plenty of insights there as well. So it's growing on me, and certainly that article series is definitely one to keep an eye on. It's very, very insightful. So that is that one. I'm not sure, Gary, are you ready to move on to some of the racing content? If you're prepared, we can jump over there.
I mean, the racing this week is actually unbelievable. So because the racing was so good this week, I know a few people have asked why we didn't have more content up for Doncaster this week. So for anybody who's not familiar with horse racing, there's a big festival on this week at Doncaster Racecourse. So it's the St. Leger meeting. Now the St. Leger takes place tomorrow. It's the final classic of the season. And usually in those big festivals we'd have articles day on day. But given that there's such good racing on Saturday and Sunday this week, we decided just to scale it back and focus on the weekend. So that's the reason that we haven't seen any articles go for the other days. But getting into this weekend, so we start in Ireland. So in Ireland, it's Irish Champions Weekend. And I think there's 8 races tomorrow, 5 or 6 of them are group races. It's just an unreal day of racing. And then so it's Leopardstown tomorrow and the Curragh on Sunday. The first one I fancy is a horse called Atomic Jones. Now, this is a race for 2-year-olds. So again, for anybody not familiar with horse racing, kind of 2-year-olds are when they start off their career. So they're just having their first races. Some have only had 1 run, others will have 2 or 3 runs. But there's very little form to go on. So you can kind of find some nuggets and some value in the races. And that's what I've gone for with Atomic Jones. So he's only had 1 run to date, and he won that, but he won it by, I think it was a short head or a neck. It was a very tight margin anyway. But given that it was his first run, I think he's going to come on for that. And he's also bred to go over further. So that was over 7 furlongs. He's running over 8 furlongs tomorrow. He's beat a horse on debut called Manuel Cord. I probably butchered that name. I think it's a French name. So don't at me if I have. My French has never been great. And that horse has mixed form with some of the other horses in the race. So I've looked through those different races, and I think that Atomic Jones' victory over him on both of their first runs is probably as good as anything that's on offer out there, apart from the favourite, who has some quite decent form. So I think I've put him up. He's 8-1. So you get about 2-1 for the place. Most firms are playing 3, some might be playing 4 places. I think at that price, he's a bet to nut, and I'd be disappointed if he's outside the top 3. And I think he could win it at 8-1. And again, in Ireland, the last 2 are either a double. So 2 favourites. Favourites usually aren't my thing. I go into some reasoning behind them, but St. Mark's Basilica has been great this season for Aidan O'Brien. Again, he's something like a horse it's a 4-runner race. He's up against some decent opposition. I give my kind of reasons in the article as to why I'm kind of against each of those oppositions or opponents. But I think that when I looked at the race before the odds came out, I thought he'd be kind of a 4-6, 4-7 shot. Saw that there was 11 to 10 available. I think it's a decent price. So I've doubled him up with a horse called Max Winnie. He'll love any rain that comes, so I'm not too sure. I haven't checked the weather forecast. The ground was good. He'll handle good. But if there's rain overnight or in the Dublin area tomorrow, that'll only be beneficial to him. He's been running over further and in really good quality races and hasn't been mapped. But the 2 races he's run over a mile, he's won. He's back to a mile tomorrow. So I think that's a good bet. He's available around 9-2. So I put that up as 10-1 the double. I'll probably back Max Winnie in a single myself as well. If Max Winnie loses, then I won't be back in St. Mark's Basilica at 11-10. It's just not my kind of price. But I think the double is value at about 10-1. And then the last horse I put up is actually at Doncaster. So it's a horse called Venturous. He's 20-1. He's in a race over 5.5 furlongs. Won 2 races ago pretty well after. He got up on the line, but he missed the start. So that's a good thing. He's £5 less than his all-weather mark. and I think he should go well. I think Betfair are playing 6 places there, so 20-1, 6 places. Again, I'd be kind of think he should get a place, hoping he can win. Be disappointed if he doesn't go close. So they're the ones that are out there. I have to give a mention to the big ones. So the St. Ledger is the big one tomorrow, as I mentioned. And there's a horse there, Hurricane Lane, that's running. That's a favourite of ours.
Hurricane Lane.
Well, like you have to mention, he's a favourite of ours. So, he's won 2 races for us this season, tipped up at, I think it was 6-1 and 4-1 or something this season. So he's one of the reasons why our horse racing column is in profit. So if you've backed every horse since we started the revamped side in April and put £1 on those, like where we're saying to win, put £1 to win, or 50p each way, where it's each way, you'd be up nearly £18. So that's a decent return. And Hurricane Lane said got his 2 wins in that, so he's a big part of it. So even though I won't be having a bet on the race, I'll be cheering him on.
Yeah, it's probably hard to see past him, right? But I was surprised to see Mojo Star so far. Was it 6-1 or 7-1? It seems a lot. So bigger price than I expected. So probably
yeah, the reverse forecast again. It's not something that I'll be getting. I'm as a racing fan. These are the races where you can watch and you don't need to have a bet. You know, like it's a good position to be in. If you are thinking of having a bet and you don't want to get involved at such a low price, as like I think it's 4-6 or 4-5 Hurricane Lane, the reverse forecast and cheer on Mojo start to win and Hurricane Lane to finish second. And if it happens, I probably won't.
Sounds good. And make sure to check out SportsRunDown.com. Gary, he hinted at the P&L there being quite positive. It's been a great summer for the sports, or for the horse racing on SportsRunDown. So do make sure to check it out. And you kind of mentioned at the start, a few people got onto you, Gary, about the articles not being there this week. So that's another thing, like you said at the start of the show, about let us know in the comments. Like, we're a small enough team and we try to cover a lot of sports, but we've still got other sports coming up later in this show as well. So there's a lot of leagues, a lot of different race meetings and all sorts going on. So do let us know what it is you like, what it is you're most interested in, and we'll obviously do our best to get as much content out there for you and as many tips and previews. So just make sure to get that feedback over to us whichever way you can, and we'll do our best to take it on board.
Yeah, definitely. The only other thing to say on the horse racing, and it is kind of just a gripe, but I put it into the group earlier on. I cannot believe the amount of horses that are winning next time out. So if you are backing these horses tomorrow and they don't win, make sure to watch out for them next time out and back them, because there's a pattern occurring where over the last couple of months, anything I tip up that hasn't won has come out and won. So 2 today, I tipped them up at York for the Ebor Festival, which was only about 2.5 weeks ago. Neither of them ran any sort of race. And came out today and won at 2-1 and 9-1. There was also horse of Richard Fahey's Power something, I can't remember, but I tipped him up. He got a shotgun ride and then went out in France and won a Group 1. So Perfect Power, I think it was called. So if you are backing them tomorrow, I said make sure to keep an eye on them, because the trend has been that.
So what you're saying is,
and then next time out they'll win a bigger price.
Yeah, don't back them tomorrow. Just go into the article, read it, put them in your tracker.
Put them in your tracker.
Next time
the website, see when they're not tipped up, and then that's the time to back them.
Or just read the horse racing column about 4 days after it was published, and then you'll get a good feel for what's going to win in the days ahead.
It's so frustrating though. Like, I was sitting there today, and I was just really busy with kind of the other job and things like that. So I wasn't able to have any bets or anything. And I looked up at the screen. And I saw the first one, and I was like, oh my god! Like, I tipped that up last time out. And then about 2 hours later, the exact same thing happened. I just looked up, telly was on in the background. I was like, oh my god! So yeah, frustrating time, but we're still in profit, and I do think tomorrow these ones have a decent shot. Obviously, the 20-1 shot, you can't nap a 20-1 shot, but the others, I'd be disappointed if they don't go close. So yeah, I hope, fingers crossed for tomorrow, it's the turning point, and when we can get back on a roll, because we had a really good roll going there where every week we were getting a decent return. Kind of dipped in August, so we want to get it back, and as the flat season ends and we go into the jump season, keep the good run going.
And for anyone not familiar with Gary's racing tips, they definitely do go through those very good phases like that. I remember there was a point where I was sure we were going to get barred from the Paddy Powers in Canary Wharf, going in every second day, taking out cash. But yeah, so
I'm going to start tipping the lady behind the counter so she wouldn't stop taking the bet.
Yeah.
Although I probably shouldn't be saying that, someone Paddy Power will sack her, but
yeah. Well, yeah, sending somebody else in then to collect the thing. But yeah, so that is that. The football side of things tonight is kind of gone very quiet. No goals in Italy, although it's just a win there, so it's not a huge ask for Benevento to get a winner. It's halftime in Belgium, still 1-0 Bruges. The red card you pointed out, Gary's probably put that one to bed. And then no goals. It's nearly halftime in the Waterford match. I said in the article I was tempted to back Waterford. They've had very little of the ball here, but they've not really been. They haven't really been under a huge amount of pressure at the same time either. So let's see how that price is looking. They're slightly in from 9 to 1 to 17 to 2, but I might see how that goes on later in the game. So yeah, kind of gone very quiet there for the all action ACCA.
On the other bet though that I called out, Liam, at the start, where included Dermo's bet, that's actually going very well. So Shelbourne are winning 1-0, so we have Shelbourne to win. Birmingham are winning 1-0, we have Birmingham to win. Obviously, the both teams to score that Dermot tipped up in League One, that's in as well. So that leg is settled. And then the other leg was both teams to score in Sligo Rovers St. Pat's, and Sligo Rovers are 2-0 up. So we just need Pats to get a second half kind of consolation goal there, the other two to hang on. I know it's probably easier said than done, but I said in theory we're one goal away, so ticking along all right there.
Yeah, very nice. 2-0 is still, they'll still be absolutely going for that, so it's not a big worry. I think when you get up to sort of 3-0 is when you start to sweat the both teams to score. So yeah, that is that. What time is it in the Lille match? I presume it's
in the Lille match. So it's just gone half time, I'd say. So it's 44 minutes on the screen I'm watching, but I'm probably a minute behind, so it's just on half time, I'd say.
Yeah, I probably thought myself that Lille were going to regress more this season, but they seem to be doing an okay job so far. So interesting to track them and see if they can pull out the win here. If they do pull out the win, it'll be a great another kind of feather in Dermot's bow, because he kind of predicted that they would start not so well and kind of improve as the match goes on. So excited to see how that one finishes up.
Yeah, as it's still end to end. Like you wouldn't think that Lille were like kind of the champions trying to retain their crown here. This looks like a kind of derby match in the mid-table where it's just ding-dong both ends. Like defenses are being ripped open left, right, and centre, and the keepers are actually keeping the score down. So, yeah, like it's a decent watch.
Yeah, very good. So while that's about to hit half time, maybe we can move to the NFL, Gary. So
the big one.
The big one. Anyone who is new to the actually not new, anyone who's even familiar with us won't be aware of this. So we've joined SportsRunDown, and myself and Gary basically have joined the Circa Millions competition this year. So we are signed up and ready to go. And you might have seen a few pictures on Twitter and maybe Facebook, but certainly Twitter over the course of the last week in Vegas when we were signing up to that. So we're going to do a segment every week now on the show where we discuss our picks for the 5 selections. I mean, obviously there might be some overlap, but we'll go through mine, we'll go through Gary's, and then we'll settle on the 5 that we're going to pick at the end. They'll be our official picks. So we'll make them basically here on air. If you do have any thoughts, by all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know during the week. We'll happily discuss them. I mean, even between myself and Gary, I think there's at least one where we're on opposite sides. So by all means, let us know. We'll have that conversation with you. It's the main fun thing about the sports betting is the disagreement about the picks. So we might as well start with yours, Gary. You've got your 5 up on the screen there now. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so probably start with the Rams. Like I just think the Rams are like. So anybody who's read the season preview, if you haven't read the season preview, there's a season preview up on SportsRunDown.com. So I put it together, basically goes through division by division rundown and gives a tip for the Super Bowl. So I won't spoil who the tip for the Super Bowl is, but in there I mentioned that the Rams are going to do really well this season. So normally I would try to avoid anything that goes over a touchdown. So these 7.5 spreads I don't really like, but I just think the Rams would be too good this season. Their defense is really good. It was ranked number 1 in total defense last season. They've got Aaron Donald and players like that, so they're not going to slow down or regress from that. They're going to be at least in the top 5 defenses this season, I would say. So on that side of the ball, they're great. And then obviously they brought in Matt Stafford from the Lions, and he has any amount of options that are available to him. So you've got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and everyone like that from a receiving standpoint. So I think that this is Stafford's time to shine. I assume he's going to be raring to go tomorrow night. I hope he'll go out and just tear the defense to shreds. And I can see the Rams covering the 7.5 spread. So 7.5 spread for the Rams is what I'm taking. It's a similar story for the 49ers. The 49ers were banged up last season. They had so many injuries. They have everybody back. They obviously have Trey Lance in there. He's going to be fighting out with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's going to be a lot of trick plays from the 49ers this season. I think the fact that they have 2 quarterbacks, Kyle Shanahan is going to want to mix it up with those. So I think they're going to be explosive on offense. And then you just have to look who they're playing, because they're playing against the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions were just absolutely terrible on defense last season. So they're ranked worst in the league on total defense. They gave up over 32 points on average per game. They don't really look to have rectified that, to me, in the off season. And even if they have put some kind of pieces in place, I don't think it's going to be enough to stop the 49ers. So again, the Rams and the 49ers are 2 that I normally wouldn't put in there because I don't like the big spreads, but I think they have to be in there. The Panthers. So again, the Panthers are getting Christian McCaffrey back. I can just see them being tough to stop on offense. They've got Christian McCaffrey. Sam Darnold has come in. He's obviously playing against his old team. When he played for the Jets, he linked up really well with Robbie Anderson. That gives them a deep threat. Even though the Jets have Robert Saleh, who was the 49ers defensive coach last season, I don't think that he'll have had the time to kind of turn around the defensive fortunes. And, you've got Royce Freeman to kind of support Christian McCaffrey from running back position. You've got Sam Darnold, who links up well with Robbie Anderson, and you have players in there like DJ Moore, etc. as well. I just think they're going to have too much for the Jets, and they should be able to cover the 3.5 point spread. Similar on to the Titans. With the Titans, again, I think this is kind of fairly similar in terms of just their offense is explosive. You've got Derrick Henry there, led the league in rushing last season. I don't see how many defenses are going to be able to stop him. He's just a powerhouse. They brought in Julio Jones, who hasn't had the greatest of seasons, probably the last 2 seasons, but we all know his quality. They've got the likes of AJ Brown and stuff there, so I just think they're going to have way too much on offense, and they should be able to cover a 3-point spread. And then the Dolphins, I think, is a brave call, but this is based on their defensive play last season. So they were a top-ranked defense. I think they might have been 2nd or 3rd in total defense last season. I can see them being similar this season. They're pretty good on that side of the ball. And then, they've got the likes of, I'm not really convinced by Tua, but obviously at least he's been in the season or in the NFL.
You said that, I saw that in your preview article as well. Out of curiosity, why is that? And what is it you're not a fan of?
It's not something that I can really put my finger on. I don't know whether it's still the doubt of his kind of injuries that he picked up coming out of college and into the NFL, and whether I just think that he might get hit and go down. his passing is slightly erratic. So I think when he's good, he's very good, but he can throw the odd bad pass.
You mentioned the injury there. I was actually at the game last season when he got injured, or his final season in college when he got injured, and I actually thought he was never going to play again. It was brutal, but I do get the feeling about injury-prone players. I know that I read something recently where that's kind of a myth, but I would agree with you. I think he's got a lot of potential. I mean, obviously got a lot of potential. I think he's going to do well for them, but I was just curious what your take there was.
Yeah, no, like I think he's good, but is he elite? That's basically what I'm saying. Like, so I'm not saying he's a bad, like he's not a like Mitchell Trubisky or someone like that who's just going to bomb out of the, start throwing masses and masses of interceptions. But like to take the Dolphins from where they were to being a team challenging for like divisional honors, conference honors, Super Bowls, I just don't know whether he's going to be the answer. And that's my kind of hold up with him. But in this game, obviously going against the Patriots, Patriots have Mac Jones starting. I think it's going to take him time to settle in. He has a few weapons like Hunter Henry and stuff. But other than that, it's like Kendrick Bourne and players like that we're at the 49ers and we're okay, but again, they're not superstars. Not jumping off the roster being like these are players that are going to be able to stand up and be counted, and that's kind of what you need when you have a rookie quarterback in there. Damian Harris will help him. Obviously, out of Bama, he's a decent running back. He'll be able to take some of the weight off his shoulders. But I just think a rookie QB coming up against the defense that were ranked in the top 2 or 3 last season in total defense, I must check up. I think they were probably around 19 points that they allowed on average last season. It could get bad pretty fast if he opens up with an interception or even a couple of 3 and outs. I think it could just get fairly bad fairly fast for the Dolphins were 21 points on average they allowed last season. So they're not and that was ranked 5th or 6th. So they're not a bad defense. In fact, they're kind of a very good defense. And I just think that they could cause them trouble.
Yeah. Cool. We move on to mine. I've actually got the Dolphins as well, and you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, so there's no point in me kind of reiterating everything you said. I think with that defense, their defense, the 3.5 is going to look good. I think I'll probably back them to win on Sunday myself, just straight up win. But yeah, I think for this, the Dolphins are a good one. I've also gone with Los Angeles. I think the 7.5. Again, yeah, it's just outside the touchdown. I'm not sure, but I was reading something, and Andy Dalton is the worst primetime record of any quarterback ever. I think potentially ever. But I just think that LA are going to be way too good, and it's a.
And sorry, could I just interrupt you there? I actually said total defense they were in. It was actually turnovers, I think it was. So sorry, in case anybody's going to come at me.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
And I think the setup. I mean, I would probably do the same thing as the Bears have done. You've got kind of more experienced guys starting out the season, and then just ease in the new players. But I just think that type of game away, prime time. You're not the main guy. Like, you're just kind of in there as a stopgap. I think he's going to struggle. I think the Bears are going to struggle. I think it could be a very comfortable win. You made there's no point in me going over everything you said about them. So yeah, I think that one.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that like both of us have the Rams, they have to go into our selections. So that's kind of a tick box. So
the next one I've gone for is Green Bay. I just think that it's going to go one way or the other for them this season. All the sort of off-field drama during the summer, it's either going to be one big last hurrah and they're going to really go for it. And I don't know if that will last in the season. I don't think they're going to win anything this season. But I think that, with that kind of emotions will be high and they could start the season very, very strongly. They might fade off a bit. I know there's questions of depth in a couple of positions, but I think early on, I think a lot of things could go right for them. I mean, this could blow up in my face and they might not cover here. They might not be all that good. And then maybe the off-field issues may be more of a distraction than a kind of a siege mentality type thing that might be happening. I think if they do win, they'll win by more than 4. It's the sort of game it could easily open up. And if it does, I think the 4 could look could look fairly narrow come the end of that one. The next two, I must be honest, I actually struggled to get to 5 this week. So 1, 2, and the fifth one there with the Dolphins. I'm with you. I actually did have the Cowboys on Thursday night, so obviously that's not included here. So the last two, I think I've gone with the Bengals. I've kind of bought into the hype on them this season a bit. I think Joe Burrow being back is a huge boost to them. I know speaking of injury prone players, he had his ACL issues last year. I think if he's over those, and I think Joe Mixon is there, I think I've bought into the hype train on him as well. So I just think they're going to have a very good season. Again, I probably backed them here myself without the handicap. I think they're going to win that game. I think 3 points is going to it's going to win anyway. So 3 and 4. I'm not hugely. I can't even make a case for the Seahawks if I'm honest. Now I know I picked it, I've put it in there, but now that I look at it, I'd have to leave that one out. So basically, I've got 4 for the 5.
I don't think I can agree with you on the Bengals. So I agree with you in terms of their offensive kind of prowess. I think they've got a lot of young talent there, like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and which you mentioned, Burrow, Mixon. And when they click in games, they're going to be unbelievable, I'd say, going forward, or an offense. But I just don't know whether the roster is full. There's gaps in special teams, there's gaps in defense. I don't know whether their offensive line is going to be able to protect Burrow enough. So that would be my worry. I can see that, and I mentioned it in my preview, that like I'm going to back overs in the first couple of games the Bengals are playing, kind of just blind, because I think that, like, I don't even know what the over is in this game, but if it's anyway under or in around 50, so between 48 and kind of 53 or 54, I'll be backing it, because I think it's just going to turn into a shootout. There'll be turnovers, there'll be class touchdowns. I think they're just going to be really exciting games to watch from a scoring perspective. But I don't know whether that's the type of pick we want in a super contest. Would be the.
I mean, if it was a survivor type contest, I probably wouldn't be putting them in there now, I must say. Like I said, I wasn't hugely confident on many. I mean, 2 or 3 picks this week, and then the rest of them I wasn't very confident on. So I'm not going to argue hugely against you on the Bengals there. I do think they'll win that game. I think, like you said, a shootout. It could go very similar to the game last night, Dallas Tampa game, and I think being at home, a couple of players come back from injuries. I think it'll go their way. Will I be backing them for any particular achievements in the season? No, I don't think so. I know the Vikings had a couple of injury problems during the summer, and I just think that in this game, the Bengals have players coming back. The Vikings are going to have to get used to playing without certain guys, and I think it's going to go their way. I do agree with you. Season long, they won't be in there many times, if at all. So, huge disagreement there. We've got up on the screen now, we've got the kind of combined picks, or it's probably, what have you got up there, 15-1. So I think you already said it there, the Rams, they're going straight in. So that's there's no question about that one. And then the Dolphins, I guess we both picked the Dolphins there as well, so I guess that has to go straight in. So now we're 2 out of 5.
Yeah. I think, well, I agree with you with Green Bay. So I think made a decent enough case. I think we put Green Bay in, especially. Now, the only thing, again, is if you're looking at non-football and factors with Green Bay, I think it starts, obviously the hurricane, and you can play that 2 ways. It's like, is that going to be there in a neutral venue? Is that going to be a hindrance to them, or is that going to be something that inspires them where, we're out for the city of New Orleans and let's do this for the fans and the people and the city and things like that. So, if you're kind of thinking about that, then it becomes a bit of a dodgy play with Green Bay. But I think on just pure facts, I'd put Green Bay in. It was -4, is it?
4, yeah. I think they'll win by more than 4 comfortably. Obviously, the Hurricane thing, I went with that approach with the college football last weekend. There was a few teams, LSU being the biggest name of them, where I thought, okay, they're going to have that, disruption to their preparations because of the hurricane. They're going away. They're going to kind of put on a show. They're going to play with a lot of emotion, and it backfired in almost every one of them. So I'm not buying it this time around. If it was a different type of team, maybe Green Bay are way too experienced to have that somebody playing a little bit above their standard might upset them. So I agree with you. It's potentially a factor, but I wouldn't take it there. So okay, so you've agreed with me on Green Bay, so we've got that one in there now. That's 3 out of 4. One that wasn't on my slide, and there was a bit of news yesterday about it. The Baltimore going to Las Vegas. What are your thoughts on that one? Obviously, a lot of injury news there.
Yeah, so I think that you're going to say let's put the Raiders in, but I would be thinking
asking your opinion.
No, but I think you're going to say that. I think you're going to say the Raiders. I get an inkling from you that you were edging towards the Raiders because of the injury news. But I think
to be honest,
that
I've always had a soft spot for the Raiders, so I'm probably a little bit biased there. I've no reason.
I actually think that the play now. I'm going to say leave it alone because it wasn't in either of our top 5 picks, so that's probably the sensible thing to do. But looking at it, like they've still got 4 decent running back, 3 decent running back options, and then Lamar who can go. So like they brought in Le'Veon Bell. Latavius Murray was released by the Saints earlier on last week, so he's being signed up, I think. And then they've got Devonta Freeman, who, he did all right at New York, like filled the gap. But if you take the Devonta Freeman that was at the Falcons previously, they're 3 decent backs. Like even Latavius Murray on his own, if you think what he did with the Saints, like with the fact that you've got, Mark Andrews, you've got Lamar Jackson, you've got Marquise Brown, players like that. I think that a lot of people are going to look and say 2 or 3 injuries for the Ravens. Let's all back Vegas, especially all the people who are living in Vegas and there's been a Vegas competition. And I actually think the play would be the Ravens because I don't think they've been impacted that much, and you're going against the grain. So it's kind of a 6-pointer, if you get me.
You're taking the words out of my mouth here. Now it's kind of annoying. I was actually going to say the same thing. When I knew you'd think I'd put the Raiders in there.
Well, that's because you're a fave backer, like so.
Way out of it. The line didn't move after the injury news. They were -4, or Las Vegas were +4 beforehand, and they stayed +4. So like you said, the depth of talent there was probably there's no real. Certainly, Las Vegas, was bookie expectation. That's changed the game a huge amount. So, as much as it's obviously bad news, and it's probably going to impact them over the season, especially if they pick up any other knocks. But I don't know if it changes that game massively. So then, the point you made about a 6-pointer, so to anyone who's not familiar with European football, it's kind of if you beat someone who's a direct rival, it's you take 3 points off them and you get 3 points yourself for the win, so it counts as 6 points. So it's kind of if you're in a relegation battle or top of the table type thing. I would agree with you there. I actually would nearly be leaning to put in Baltimore for that very reason that, obviously these are all designed to be coin tosses, but I have an expectation that 60-70% of the people in this competition are going to have Las Vegas this weekend. So if we go against it, obviously we're live on air. It's probably not the first time to start discussing our strategy. We've both been incredibly busy since we registered for this competition. We haven't had a huge amount of time.
Well, that's what this is for. I don't think we should be discussing the strategy offline. It's give the 40 picks so we can get them up on screen, but then argue it out, like trash it out,
I would go with that then. I would say I think in a lot of these things are contrarian.
So we've got the Rams, we've got the Dolphins, yeah? We're going with the Packers?
Packers, yeah.
All right. I think we have to go with the 49ers. I wouldn't be happy. Like, the 49ers.
Anyone who's not familiar with SportsRunDown, Gary is a 49ers fan.
No, but this is the case in point, is I never back the Niners because it's just too depressing when they lose and then I back them and you've lost money. I just don't do it. So I try stay away from the Niners as much as possible. But this weekend, I'm going to be backing, and I'll be coming over the weekend, a 49ers player for any time touchdown score, and I'm going to be backing the Niners. I think they should go in, personally. So if you allow me the Niners, that'll be 4, and then we can fight out over the 5th one.
I think with the 49ers, it's a very similar case that I would have made for Cincinnati. Now, obviously, very different kind of periods in their sort of franchise at the minute, but I think the 49ers had such a bad year last year because of a lot of kind of bad luck and injuries, and people are back now that I think they could be slightly underrated. I wish they, they're more than a touchdown and they're away, so that's kind of my hesitation there. I wouldn't put up a huge argument against them. I don't think Detroit are that bad, but yeah. To be honest, because I can't make a case for anybody else any better than that, I'll allow it and we'll go with the 49ers as our fourth pick. I don't like the fact that it's over a touchdown, and I don't like the fact that we've now got 2 over 7 points. But
I don't really like it either, but I think it has to be done. I just when I look at
run through the rest of the list, right? Like the Browns at Kansas, like that one to me is. It seems like a lot of people picked it. We're in some private versions of this competition, and a lot of people have that line picked. To me, it looks like a banana skin. Jaguars at the Texans. I wouldn't go near that. What else is up there for the sirens in the background? They're quite loud here. Hopefully, you can't hear it through the stream.
Yeah, so Eagles, Falcons as well. Like, I mean, that could turn into a slingshot or a gunslinging matchup as well. So I wouldn't go near that.
Yeah.
Chargers, Washington, good offense against good defense. I was tempted by the New York Giants against the Broncos. At home, getting points against the Broncos. I think Giants could be these, especially if Saquon Barkley makes it. I know the last time I checked the news, it was about 2 days ago, he was 50-50. But if he makes it, then they could be decent. He might miss this week though.
One that did briefly cross my mind was the Titans plus 3. It's another one that I know they're underdogs. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually won that one. But again, it's just this early. I can't make those calls. So I'm not going to go against San Francisco. I actually did like them, but then when I saw it was 7.5, I would have. If it was 6.5, I'd be all over it. So
right. So we go to Ravens then as well. You give me the Niners, and I'll give you the Ravens, and then.
Well, do you agree with the logic on that? And you kind of made a similar
point.
No,
I do agree. Like, I was full sure you were going to turn around and say, let's back the Raiders.
So what happens when the injury news broke? I was like, right, the Raiders are going in because the lines are already set and this line is going to move against it. And as we've seen in the past, if the game is a 2-point game, but you're getting 4, well, then that's the right play to do. But I went in and the line didn't move and I kind of kept watching it. I was like, okay, maybe this injury news is actually just slightly... Maybe it's a false rumor or something like that, but then the news settled and it was correct. The injuries were there and the line still didn't move. And I just thought, okay, although maybe it should have been 4.5, maybe beforehand, and there was already a bit of juice cooked in. But when it didn't move, I just thought, okay, a lot of people are going to take the Raiders for the same knee-jerk reaction that I had, and it doesn't make sense now. So I think, it still looks like the right line, and I think we'll be in the minority with Baltimore. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, like the logic is there. I said I don't think it's not as detrimental as people are making out. It's getting all the headlines. And I said the fact that it's against the Vegas team in a Vegas competition, yeah, it makes sense to do. So that's our 5. So we've got Rams, Niners, Dolphins, Ravens, and who was the 5th one?
Green Bay.
That's solid enough, I think.
Yeah, we got home, away, 2. We look at this. Actually 4 away teams and then a home favorite. But yeah, I like it. I mean, there might be some very good angles on some of those other games, but I just think it's too up in the air for me to make any calls. And I think we're in agreement at least, so it's a good start. So we'll put those in, and we'll be back. If you have any thoughts on this segment, how we kind of did it, as we alluded to a few minutes ago, it's the first time we've really talked about this between ourselves. So if you have any thoughts on how it would be a more exciting or more interesting way to actually have this, by all means, let us know in the comments. I see we have a comment on YouTube there. Hello. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name because it's in a different language than I speak. But hello, and by all means, let us know what your thoughts are. But we'll put those in, and it's probably a very convenient segue, Gary, into the more general NFL content. So I know you had mentioned your NFL article. So there's some very good season-long bets in there. I'm not sure if you want to give a quick rundown of the actual bets, and then anyone who's interested, by all means, head over to SportsRunDown.com and go to the NFL section. You'll find that article there straight away.
Yeah, so there was quite a lot of bets in there. So basically, I ran through every division. I'll just get my thoughts on the division winners. So each of them are in there now. One of the divisions is like the Kansas City Chiefs are, I think they were like 5-16 to win the division, and I can't see them not winning the division. So I put that down as being the pick, but obviously I'm not going to back it. So after going through each division, I picked up an accumulator, put down an accumulator that I think has a bit of juice in it. So it's 40-1 fourfold for the Rams, Titans, Browns, and Washington football team all to win their divisions. So I think that's a bit of value. And obviously the Cowboys played pretty well last night. So if they play like that throughout the season, Washington may find it tough, but I still think there's a bit of value in that at 40-1. I won't spoil my Super Bowl winner. So we'll leave that for anybody to go and check out on the site. And same, like the MVP is linked to the Super Bowl winner, so we won't go through that. As comeback player of the year, I have Christian McCaffrey in there. So I think John, again, pardon the pun, but if he hits the ground running, he should go close there in terms of that. Like he's been, when he was fit, he's the best player in the league. In my opinion, 7-1, I think underestimates his chances there in terms of comeback player of the year. For regular season passing yards, I think the Browns are going to have a decent year this year. Chubb has been kind of emerging there. They've got Kareem Hunt and stuff out in the backfield. I think that they could throw the ball more. He's 50-1 to be the leading passer. I thought that was a bit of value, so I put that in. Most sacks this season, I put in Nick Bosa, so he's returning from injury. I kind of had looked at him in the comeback player of the year as well. I think he was around 14s. But with McCaffrey and a couple of other, like Dak Prescott and stuff like that in there, I couldn't tip him up for that. So I put him in for most sacks. He's a little bit to do to win that, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And he's 18-1. And then defensive rookie of the year is Micah Parsons. And again, he couldn't quite get the headlines last night against Tom Brady and co, but he still had a pretty good game. So if he continues that form through the season, I think that 6-1 looks like a good bit of value. So there's some of the bets that I picked out in the preview. As I said, I haven't spoiled the likes of MVP, the receiving yards, because they're all linked into my total Super Bowl or overall Super Bowl winner. But I'd hope it's a good read. I hope there's a decent bit of insight in there. And yeah, again, as Liam said, if you have any feedback, and let us know. So we've also got our socials. We've got the stream. If you want to email us, info@sportsrundown.com. Happy to have any feedback, any chats on it. And yeah, looking forward to the season. Just to call out what our kind of schedule of articles is going to be like throughout the season. So for NFL, we're going to have Brian O'Leary, who hosts as co-host on the Irish NFL show. He's going to be doing a Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football bet builder for us. So the first one last night didn't go great, but it's hard to start the season. Brian knows his stuff, so I have confidence that he's going to be able to pick up some gems throughout the season. We've got the I'll be doing an anytime touchdown ACCA, which on a Sunday you'll be picking out 3 or 4 different players to score a touchdown, putting them in an accumulator. And then we have Paul Bassett, who's joining the team, and he's going to be looking at game spread, so against the spread, money lines, or over-unders, and he'll have an accumulator for that as well. So look out on the site, keep checking back. So there's going to be a lot of content there. And if there's anything that you want added in, let us know. We're constantly trying to improve that content side of things. So any feedback is good feedback at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. I'm not sure if you saw my reaction there while you were talking.
I saw you winching.
Just missed an open goal, like 80, 85, 87 minutes, and it's been all Benevento in the second half, and it was like a lovely bit of play out to the side of the box, whipped it in. I don't know what the keeper was doing. He was in no man's land. The ball just sort of bounced a yard out from the goal, and the Benevento player put it wide. So, that's that probably bet over now. It's 88th minute. I think we're into maybe the 89th, so it's probably going to be the last chance there. But yeah, it's a very rich NFL schedule of content we've got coming up. So by all means, stick around and see all that. By myself, I would be looking at a lot of the college football, so I'm not sure if you've anyone who's familiar with the site would have seen the CFB articles up there recently, and anyone who's a long-term viewer of the site would have realised we had a college football series 2 seasons ago as well. It was shelved for a while because we were focused on football, but we brought it back now that we have more hands at the pump. So a couple of upsets I've got this week. Generally, it will be underdogs I'm going for. So if you didn't see my preseason article, that obviously all the big teams in college football have an endless amount, in any sport really, have an endless amount of content for them, and we're not just going to kind of repeat that and churn out why Alabama are going to win each week. So we're looking at some of the smaller games and the smaller teams, and generally with an eye for upsets. I'm not going to chase them. We don't want to just pick them just for the sake of it, but there's 50, 60 games every weekend, so there's usually good value out there. I picked a couple of them this week, so make sure to get over there and have a look at them. I think for me, the main one, actually, some content, some feedback we did get from a reader was to stress which ones of the games are my biggest picks. I know it seems like an odd one, but probably the Buffalo-Nebraska game is my biggest one. They're the biggest underdogs of anyone that I've looked at this weekend, and they're 14 points. I mean, Buffalo they're not world beaters, but Nebraska are just so bad. We backed against them in the first week. We recommended it. We played an FCS school last weekend for them, and they kind of struggled. I mean, in the end, I'm not sure if you read the article, Gary, or if you saw any of the games. In the end, they beat soundly, but they scored 28 points late on. The FCS for them threw 3 interceptions from pretty scoreable positions, and it was, I think, only 3 points in at halftime. I think 27 minutes into the game, it was tied. They did not look a whole lot better than their FCS counterparts last week. On the other side of it, Buffalo absolutely annihilated. I forget who they played now, actually, but another non-FBS school. They absolutely destroyed them. They let in 1 score. They were 62-0 up by the time they let that in, because obviously their eyes had moved forward to this week. Nebraska are a big school. They have a huge fan base. It's a big name. They always get it. We talk about it many times on the stream, Gary, in terms of European football, when the likes of United or AC Milan have a bad spell, they're still favourites in every game. Not because they should be favourites, because that's where the money goes. I think if the bookies put, Nebraska as underdogs in this sort of game, a lot of money will go on to them, and I don't think the bookies are going to take that risk. Certainly not giving them the points. So I think they're minus 14. I don't know how. I just can't understand how they're favourites. Never mind that much. But bear in mind, there's a lot of professionals that make these lines, so could be wrong. Don't get carried away. But we've picked up good upsets already this season, so hopefully we get another one. I've got Iowa to beat Iowa State as well. It's another one that I just can't quite understand how they're not favourites. Again, they both won the first week, and I'm not saying Iowa State are by any means a bad team, but that Iowa defense. We talk about it, Gary. I can't remember if it was me and you spoke about it, but their defense last week was absolutely incredible. They gave absolutely nothing up, and I just don't see how Iowa State really do much damage against them. So they're plus 4.5. I'm going to back them at the money line, and as I kind of outlined in my article this week, some of those underdogs, unless there's a very good reason not to, I'll probably back the money line and then with the spread as a kind of an insurance or something like an each way. I know it's not quite what an each way is, but a little bit of a cover bet to protect myself. So they're the 2 that I would be really looking at this weekend. Appalachian State is another one I've put in the article. Read it if you like it. It's a little bit of a riskier play. So the first 2 are the 2 that I'd be really putting my money on. If I had to pick.
Yeah, so I didn't want to interrupt you there because you were in full flow, but the couple of questions you asked me. So I didn't get to watch many of our college games last season. Last week I watched the Alabama game. And I agree with kind of your thoughts on that, where, like they were kind of given a freebie, really, that way it kind of played into their hands. So while it was a decent game, it's kind of ruined by Alabama going up kind of over 21 points or something up very quickly. But the rest of it, I think you're kind of underselling the way you've tipped on the college football in the last 2 weeks. Like week 0 tips probably 2 from 2 in underdogs, and they were fairly juicy underdogs as well. And then last season, the bets were taken along fairly well until kind of a late stage. So I think you're kind of underselling them, and I'll definitely be having a bet off the tips for this week. as I said, I been involved in the horse racing and the NFL side of things. I haven't had a chance to actually focus on the game or the college games in as much detail as I'd like, but hopefully over the next couple of weeks I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a few. I'm not sure anyone who's watching, if you let us know what games you did watch last week. There was a couple of them that were really, really strange, like 0-0 at halftime. Clemson as well got shut out at halftime. And there's a few that I'm really looking forward to watching. I mean, Georgia was one. They're 25-point favorites, I think, this weekend. And I mean, I think Georgia, I tipped Georgia up to win the championship this season in my pre-season article. But it's just, they scored so little last week, and they're so defensively good. I wonder will it be because they're so good on defense, they get a lot of the ball and they'll rack up a high score, or will it just become kind of a low-scoring game? Penn State were another one that was 0-0 halftime, which was kind of crazy. But they will. I don't know if that kind of flatters them a little bit, so I think they might struggle a bit this week. And then we've also got a couple of favorites that I think are probably better than the line suggests, and I've put them in a parlay, just four of them. So by all means, just head over to SportsRunDown.com and then check the college football section, and we've got a week 2 bets and predictions article up there. But I appreciate the positive feedback, Gary. We'll see after this weekend if you back them, and if they come in, then we'll be having a different conversation next week.
Yeah.
Down 7 units, you're like, oh, okay, forget it.
No, but like I said, they're like, we don't want to overhype it, because that's not what happens, is you overhype it and then end up like, tipping a few duds or whatever. But we definitely started the season, or you started the season on a good note. So fingers crossed it continues.
Yeah, I think with anything, it's the same reason like you do so well with the English Football League and with even say the Serie B or the SerieA. The less focus some leagues get and certain games get, you definitely have a much better chance at finding value. I don't know. I'd actually be very curious to find out what percentage of the book money goes on the big games like LSU, Alabama, Texas, all these people. However much money is bet on college football every week, you've got to think a big section of it is going on those teams. And you move down to the Buffalo at Nebraska, and it's only a very small. I would imagine. I actually don't know, but I would imagine it's a small percentage of the action that weekend. So maybe that's why you've got a bit more scope to find the better lines. Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's my theory anyway.
Yeah, no, like it is that way. Like you get bookmakers copying lines and not actually doing the analysis and stuff, and you start to see a little bit of value creeping in. So it's definitely worth focusing on the kind of less highly rated schools, but obviously that comes with its bad points as well, in terms of you want to be able to watch the bets, and in Europe it's usually just that the Bahamas and the LSUs and the Clemsons and stuff are on the TV. You don't have the choice and not able to watch the local teams and things like that. So
I saw somebody tweeted actually that there should be a college football, like a red zone like you have for the NFL for the college football. There's so many games, it would just be action for 7 hours.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be a bettor's dream though if they ever did come up with something like that. It's the way it's done though. It's so many TV companies involved in the schedule. I don't think it was ever going to happen, but it would be unbelievable if it did exist. So the Benevento game ended 0-0. After that missed open goal, I knew it was never gonna happen for me. And Rovers have gone 1-0 up against Waterford, so there's still 25 minutes left there for an equaliser. Hopefully that does come in, and we'll cover ourselves for the weekend. But yeah, the Benevento one, that was so disappointing. If you get a chance to look at the highlights, it was just like 88 minutes on the clock, ball rolled across the front of the goal, right. So when you see that happening, you know the luck is not with you. And I think I have to retire my Benevento betting now, because that's 2 weekends in a row they've had so many chances and just couldn't score and cost the bet both times. So
yeah, so sometimes you just need to, even if they're sticking out, just go, right, there's a bit of a bogey team, and give them a rest for a while.
Yeah, they probably start winning now 4-0 and 3-0 and get every single type of bet covered as soon as I move away from them. But the sensible thing to do. Yeah, like I said, then still 25 minutes left in the Waterford match for a second goal there to bring that one in.
Yeah, we're entering the last 25 minutes in the Lille and Lorient game, and Lille are kind of pressing now, like,
What odds are they for to win that game?
They had a corner and Lorient were on a counter attack. They could, probably should have scored there. They ended up having a 3-1 on the counter attack from a Lille corner. But yeah, it's kind of still end to end. But Lille are looking a lot better than they were in the first half.
They're at the 13-5 now for that win, so could be interesting. Could be a bit of value there for anyone who's looking to bet in play. You leave it off. I haven't been watching it. I always feel like a bit of a mug if you back a match in play that you haven't actually been watching. But,
yeah, like as I said, it probably is value, but the way it's end to end this game, like I said, Lorient attacked there, had 3-1. It's one of those things that you could just end up like with egg on your face if you kind of lump on, because they're not dominating the game enough and holding Lorient at bay. There's still that threat of Lorient, on the counter and things like that. So I personally keep my powder dry and save the money for the weekend. But I said overall they are looking on top in the game.
The Club Rouge, you've gone 3-0 up, by the way. So your version of that bet actually came in with just the over 2.5. I know you probably had Benevento to win there, so no luck.
Oh yeah, Benevento let it down. Yeah,
I'm actually sick over that. And just generally, so what other? I mean, we've gone through all the different articles on the site and all the different sports that we're going to be looking out for. But your bet of the weekend, you napped QPR. Is that be your main bet of this weekend now?
Yeah, I think QPR from the football is my nap. If you ask me to pick one of the games that we talked about in the Super Contest, I think I'd probably choose the Titans. I think the Titans have a great chance. So I think they'll win. And then horse racing wise, I'll go with Atomic Jones. I think 8-1 each way, decent bet. So they'd be my three kind of decent bets across the weekend. But I said I've kind of research done. I just need to look around at prices for anytime touchdown scores. And there'll be an article up in kind of the next 24 hours on the site with our accumulator for anytime touchdown scores as well. So
is there any chance of a sneak preview for anyone watching the show?
No, because I have who I kind of want to put in there, but I don't have whether they're value or not. I haven't I could say to you Lamar Jackson and he could be 1-4. I haven't checked the prices. I've just I like to do my analysis without knowing the prices because sometimes the prices can lead you to jump on something. So I've kind of looked at the matchups, defenses versus offenses, picked out some players who I think will have decent games, and I just need to look at those and put them down on paper. So can't give a sneak preview, but for the next couple of weeks, I'll try and have it ready for a good time to go live.
No, very good. Part of that. Watching some of these games here, and I'm just looking between a few of the games that are on, but it's gone a bit quiet. Usually the Friday after an international break is never, there's a lot less games on. Your SerieA games, for example, will be on and stuff like that. So it's a slightly smaller schedule than we're used to on a Friday evening. But
yeah, so in the bet I called out at the start where we had Dermot's tip of both teams to score in League One, Birmingham, Shelbourne, and then both teams to score in Sligo over St. Pat's. So Shelbourne are 2-0 up in the 87th minute, so that's pretty much bagged. Birmingham are 1-0 up in the 72nd minute, so that's going along nicely. St. Pat's are losing 2-0, so we need them to get a goal. And there's 5 or 6 minutes remaining in that. So if you can get a Pat's goal, that bet's going to look fairly good. Just a cash out profit of about a tenner there, which obviously I won't be taking, but next 5 minutes if you get a St. Pat's goal, things will be looking up. I think that accumulator was around 13-1, 12 or 13-1, so be nice to get it in the bag.
Yeah, there's actually something about the college football while we're here. I'm just looking at, there's actually a couple of games on tonight, and 2 of them are available back. The Kansas at Coastal Carolina and UTEP at Boise State. These ones aren't quite at the level that I would usually mean this in, but there's a lot of games where I see them, do I kind of call them as like high hurdles but low bars? Like the handicap is very, very high, but then total points is not a huge amount above it. Obviously, the bookies are expecting that there's no score whatsoever for the underdog. And so it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on throughout the season. So there's not actually tonight, but I will pick out a couple. I mean, tonight they're 25, 26 point favorites, and then the over lines are mid 50s. So, that could easily be sort of 15 points to mid 30s and whatever. But there's a few that you'd see where they're like 40-point favorites, and then the line might be 50 something. So we'll keep an eye on those, because I do think that they're kind of bizarre. They both can't happen unless you win to nil, and there's not that many.
Yeah, they're kind of a tipping in themselves towards the over, like, so.
Yeah, exactly. You back him. If the team's going to win 40-0, they could easily just win 50-0. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a close one. So, as we saw, as I referenced in my article, there was a couple of huge upsets last week, and I didn't even look at these games. They were, FBS against FCS schools, so it was kind of like, almost your non-league opposition. And they were 30-40 point underdogs, and they managed to win. So it's it's obviously, if there's a 10-1 underdog wins and you've backed the over, you're probably going to feel like you missed a trick. But
yeah,
that's it there. Like, the two teams tonight are both 15-1. The underdogs, I wouldn't be going near them, but the overline is only 52. So very different, obviously, to your NFL overlines, where 52 would be a pretty, standard one. It'd be quite low in college football.
Yeah, college football, like, that's it, just score fest, like, for the most part. So they're great crack to watch. Just changing back to the football for a second, like this game in Ligue 1, Lorient and Lille, I don't know how there hasn't been another goal in this game. Like, the keepers are pulling up absolute world-class saves. People are hitting crossbars. It's just end to end. I said a few minutes ago, Lille were on top. Now Lorient are dominating. They have Lille camped in their own box. Like, it's just end to end. So, like, we obviously need, I was going to do over 2.5 goals in this game, so I would have needed a goal. And I'd be kicking myself, because the ball's just going across the box non-stop here. So if you have over 2.5 goals backed, I feel your pain.
Just gone out from it was 10-11 when you first referenced it, and now it's actually 13-10 for another goal. Obviously we are without slats tonight, so anyone who's used to watching the show would know that there's usually 3 of us, and tonight there's only 2. But the third guy, Slats, he loves his 10 to 10k bets. You start with your tenner and you roll it up 10 times at even money. That feels like a really good even money shot there.
Yeah, like I said, it's because both teams are attacking. I can't see 15 minutes left. There's definitely going to be 2 or 3 chances for each team. It's just whether they can put one of them away or not. Speaking of putting chances away, we could really do with St. Pat's putting a chance away in the next few minutes as well. I've been watching on just a bet for a little screen, and they've had so many like dangerous attacks now. I know with Betfair that could mean they're kind of 10 yards inside the opposition's half, but it's just dangerous attack. You want one of them just to flick to a goal.
What's left in that? Like a minute plus injury time?
Yeah, 2 minutes left. So it's getting to a Hail Mary time frame.
Territory.
Yeah.
And I presume it's still 1-0 in the Shells game, is it? Or is that over actually?
2-0 in the Shells, and it's in the 93rd minute at the moment. So, they should have it in the bag. They must be coming close to actually winning the league. I must check that out now and see.
I actually saw a tweet. Somebody mentioned about how many games to go, but it was obviously not how many games of the season. It was, I think, how many games they won them before it was mathematically sealed. So I think after tonight it could be 2 more, maybe, or 3 more.
Yeah, obviously it depends on the results and things like that. So I haven't checked how the other matches are going, but like I'd say they're 1 to 100 already, or maybe 1 to 1,000 to win the league and get back. So that's good news from that perspective. Big shock there is I'm just out of checking the results, but at loan beat Bray Wanderers, which would be a big shock. Bray Wanderers were 4-9 earlier on when I was looking through the odds.
Yeah. Engrossed now in this Lorient Lille game.
Oh, you're watching as well, eh?
Yeah, just decided a bit. There's only a few minutes to go, and there's not a huge amount else on. So
yeah, I'm watching it in one eye, and in the corner of the eye, I'm looking at the Betfair screen for St. Pat's, where they've just missed a chance, it seems. So that could be the ship sailed.
Yeah, when it gets that late, need something really special.
The cash out was holding fairly high. Like, I mean, given that it's into the 90th minute, you think that the cash out would kind of be gone, but it's still kind of 75% of the stake left as cash out, like, which isn't too bad.
Oh, I guess because the other legs are looking good, it's probably a lot less than 75% of your kind of current value, but that is good. I mean, usually the cash outs are so miserable that you'd be surprised when you see one that's half decent.
Yeah, exactly. Still, like I said, I wouldn't be taking it because I know I'd be more kicking myself if I took it and Pat's actually scored.
Yeah, of course. I think if this Lille game hits 2-1 for the goal, it's getting out there. Well, it's 13-8 now. I think I might actually back it as long as it's not beyond 81 minutes and it's 2-1.
Yeah, because there surely has to be a goal in this game. Like, it's too open not to have it.
You said it neither of them look like they're going to settle here. Do you know what I mean? I think they're just going to keep trying and trying. At what point would you stop? I mean, they haven't stopped yet. And I think I will. It's still 13-8.
So I'm engrossed in this past match now. I went suspended for a second, but it was just a booking for Sligo. I thought that it's going to be getting a cheer out, but
7-4 now. I'm going to load up a bit because I think it's a bit annoying now. There's only 2 games in the League of Ireland. We didn't have 4 teams to score, and we're on the 2 of them.
Birmingham have just gone 2-0 up against Derby as well. So that's in the bag. So it's all down to if Pats get a goal, basically we'll have won that bet. So it's in the 92nd minute. Again, Betfair just keeps showing them on the attack. So fingers crossed they can just get a bit of luck in that last minute. It's only a consolation goal as well. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, whether do Pats not give up and not try, or do Sligo kind of just have a lapse of concentration? I don't know.
Yeah, they might not be too bothered because they know they've already got the game won. It's hard to
exactly.
There's a great chance here. There's a huge chance in this game for Lille.
What time are you on, by the way? Because you might be a little bit ahead or behind, because I have a substitution on screen here. Like, so.
There's just gone 81 minutes for me.
All right, you're ahead of me, so.
Oh God, there's a good chance, a good breakaway. I won't say anything about it. So actually, I'll pipe down if you're.
No, sure, it's fine. Sure, you can give the updates anyway. At least we just know who's ahead rather than.
Yeah, we had a bit of confusion on that last season, and you know where we were. Like Lille had a great chance there, and then they had another good chance here, did they?
But it's just the way that, like I said, I can't get over how open and how many chances there's been in this game. Like, it's ridiculous.
It is a very underrated league for entertainment. You know, we were at a couple of the games last season and the season before last, and it did really good entertainment in the league one. So
I'm not too sure what's happening in the Pats game, because it's the 94th minute, but still seems to be going on. It's just gone suspended there. So I don't know if it's going to be suspended for a game over, or hopefully it's suspended for a goal. Pats are on the attack anyway. dangerous attack. This could be absolutely brilliant if they could just bang one in the 95th minute. No, and the match has just popped up.
Oh, crap. There's always the risk at that stage of a game.
This is like in the stats of the game. So, like, Pats had 46 dangerous attacks, 15 shots, but only 2 of them on target. It's ridiculous, like. So that's a bummer now, especially when the other legs have won so comfortably. Like, you know, like the both teams' scores in after 25 minutes. Shells were 2-0 up after 60 minutes. Was there 10 minutes to go in the Birmingham match, and they're 2-0 up. So it's annoying.
Yeah, this game is still really open here.
Have you backed it? Have you backed another goal?
Yeah, I backed another goal at 2-1. And we're about 83-10 here, so there's still probably 9 minutes left when you include that at time. Just my worry is though, Lille are starting to get a little bit sloppy, like they're just crossing it when there's, you know, rushing things a bit. So, Lorient break here.
But Lille last season scored an awful lot of late goals, didn't they? Right, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But you think teams that are very kind of, you know, physically aggressive and they're very fast and they pass and run an awful lot, they tire teams down. So not a coincidence. Barcelona were the same when they were in their heyday. So they scored late because you put so much energy into the first 70 minutes to just keep with them that you tired and then they just ran riot at the end. I'm not comparing this Lille team to that
Barcelona.
Lorient are actually on a good break here.
Did Barcelona have a 75-year-old centre back? Like?
Yeah. There was a foul there. I'm surprised the ref didn't give it. Crappy cross into the box then. This game is ridiculous. Like, it's like they're both playing like they're 1-0 down in a cup match. Just absolutely going.
That's it. There doesn't really seem to be any midfield. They're just all like, it's all attack. The ball just goes from 18-yard box to 18-yard box. Like,
yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, big hoof into the box now. Oh, God. 10 yards further away from the man that it needed to be. Things that type of match is great for the fans, especially if you're in neutral and you're watching it. It's just relentless entertainment. It's nearly like basketball or something. Obviously, when you're one of the fans, it could be a bit stressful.
Yeah. But there seems to be a great atmosphere inside the stadium as well.
I'm just going to say that, yeah. It looks like a good ground there and a good kind of crowd at it. So definitely when things calm down.
They were doing a Poznan a few minutes ago, which I wasn't too enamored with, but
yeah, there's a few things that have just taken off in football. That and the stupid Icelandic clap as well.
Yeah.
Semi-okay when they used to do it, but now.
No, I want it. Like, I mean, Iceland doing it is grand, but like, I mean, like, were France doing it or someone was doing it during the Euros? And Wales were doing it.
Yeah,
like, why
you can't slag them off too much though, because the last time was in the Aviva, Ireland were doing it as well. But yeah, it's just give it a rest.
No, you can still check them off.
Yeah. Even with like Lorient are passing out of their box here, like there's 3, 4, 5 Lille players up around the box and they're trying to pass it out between them. They've lost it now. Could be a chance.
I think there'll be one more chance for a team. I don't know who's going to get it, but there's going to be like, you know, the keeper will either make a save or whatever, but one team will get a chance.
Oh, yeah, they sure will. And they will bury it. That was absolutely
good.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, did you see it before you said it?
No, I didn't. I just saw it there.
Watching it, it's like someone's going to get a
chance.
Like,
that was
it went suspended.
Like 10 seconds after I said it. Like, but I didn't see it. Such a shy goal, like, but
that's exactly the chance that went through the keeper, right? But if that just rolled across the box, that was the chance Benevento missed in the 88th minute. So at least I've made my money back that I lost on that by this one here. See this crossover. I mean, I don't know what the right back was doing, selling himself. Are you watching this now?
No, sorry, I flicked off it there. It's not disallowed, is it?
No. Well, it's
Usually
the
when
market.
no, but usually when you say, "Are you watching this now?" That means that.
Oh no! I can't believe it. No, the betting line has moved to 4 goals. So,
Grant, that was a
yeah,
nice play by you there.
yeah. Actually, happy with that now. Very happy, of course. Usually, you know, when you say I'm going to wait for a price, like, I'll give it a minute. That's usually when the goal comes, and you end up paying for it. But all right, that's great. Anyway, it's undone the damage of the Benevento and Waterford one. So
Yeah, it's actually it's been a decent night. Like, collectively just disappointing with the Benevento game and the Pats game have kind of let us down. If Benevento had won, I would have got that other bet up. Like your one without both teams to score. And then if Pats could have got a goal, would have been another one. So obviously close but no cigar, but still decent to be there or thereabouts.
yeah, especially it's our first stream back of the season, so a lot of work preparing us to get here. So you could easily just get a bit carried away and pick a few wrong ones. We've picked actually pretty well tonight, so I'm very pleased with that. And yeah, gone very well. Hopefully, it's a good omen for the Fridays to come. And just for anyone watching, we will have our third stream member Slats will be back, I believe, next week. So we'll be back to the more usual sort of format. But by all means, let us know in the comments, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of, what sort of stuff that you'd like to talk about, because we love talking about this stuff. So yeah, any input or feedback would be very much appreciated. And obviously make sure to follow and like the page and all that stuff. It makes a big difference to us. So let's do that.
Great. We're hanging on for the last couple of minutes of the game, are we?
No, I think we probably wrap it up. I don't think
wrap it up there. All right. Cool. Well, thanks very much, everyone. We'll speak next week.
Yeah. Cheers.